Hello everybody, thank you for joining. Today I wanted to broach the subject of one of the milestones in plant keeping that we may all reach at one point. And that is to decide, what brings you joy. Do you keep a plant simply because it's here and it's alive? Do you keep a plant because it is bringing you joy? The reason I call that a milestone is because if you have as many plants as I do, what you'll eventually run into is one or two plants that isn't growing how you would prefer. Maybe they don't look as you expect. Maybe they're not growing and changing over time. Maybe they don't appear happy in the situation that you have them in. But they're not bringing you joy and you're not bringing them joy. And you have to think in your head, do I let them go or do I continue to try? Very often with succulents, you can just leave them alone, continue to try. You may decide that you're going to have success or failure at a certain point. You may just need to let them try to survive. And then I have found on occasion you can become rewarded. They will branch out, they will grow, they will change. In some cases, they just won't. So I wanted to talk about a couple of plants that I consider may not be around for the long haul. I may eventually get rid of these plants. Let's start out with this one. This is a type of Aeonium. And I don't water it very much, but it hasn't grown, it hasn't changed, but it also hasn't rotted. So in general, I set that aside with the thought of, do I keep trying? Do I neglect it? Do I just let it be and see what happens? With this one, I do think that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to let it go and see if eventually it will acclimate. I've had it for a long time. I don't really think it's acclimating, but it's also not dying. So it won't take up very much space, and so I can make a decision at a later time. I've also considered that it looks pretty silly in this pot, and I could repot it into a pot with other plants so that, all of this wide open space maybe has interest to look at. Okay, so that's what I think I'm going to do with this particular one. The other's my ice plant. Now I potted it in a pot that, it's not the best of pots for succulents, but still, it's so thirsty all of the time. It is such a drama queen. I do believe that it has popped out new leaves. It may be beginning to branch, but it just makes me very upset to look at this plant and to see that it looks so unhappy. I watered it a little while ago, and the leaves, the bottom leaves on this feel like they're perpetually wrinkled. The other thing is that I put this in soil that is pretty peaty with the hopes that it would hold water, plump this plant up, make this plant look really nice. But it doesn't really seem to work. And also with when the soil becomes hydrophobic, it's hard to get the water down in the soil with the way the lip is on this pot. So I tend to bottom water it. I'm still undecided on what the fate of this plant is. I think I might just keep on keeping on for a little bit. The next plant I want to talk about is my variegated bear paw. I am not a fan of this plant. A lot of the disgust I feel is because it's a fuzzy plant. It picks up lint, it picks up dirt, it picks up cat hair, and I just can't keep it clean. And to me, that's really unsightly. I do not like how this looks. Also, for a very long time, it didn't change at all. Now I see it's got some new leaves coming in, so there is a possibility that it will grow. The other thing that I like about this plant is this one here. This is supposed to be a variegated bear paw, and the one in the center, has got the neatest colors, where the others are just really mostly green. I know that they're variegated, but they don't look that variegated. So for now, I'm going to keep this plant, but I can't say a long-term prognosis for it because it really does not bring me joy. The next plant I want to talk about is this Crassula springtime. I did separate some of the heads off and they're in a different pot. So I've taken cuttings. The edges on this browned, so I feel like it's not extremely healthy. I may have overwatered it. I'm not sure what's wrong with it. It doesn't look like a happy plant and it doesn't make me happy. What I'll probably do is leave it for spring, see if it looks better over time. And if not, I think I might make a decision to actually throw it out. The next plant I want to talk about is this cotyledon. It's a cotyledon white spray. Once again, we got some browning on the edges. I lost some parts of this to dieback. So right here we've got a little bit of dieback. It is a plant that had a lot of farina, but also when I bought it, it was very symmetrical and very nice looking. And over time, we've had leaf dieback, we've had stem dieback in just, one place. But the leaves that are coming in are really misshapen and strange. I have a feeling that this plant will not stay in my collection for much longer. I have set it aside in the hopes that, I can just overlook it and, maybe I won't think about it too much and I'll just keep on trying. But if it doesn't start thriving, I have a feeling that this plant might be for the bin. The other plant I want to talk about is this variegated jade. I am in general quite a fan of variegated plants. So the fact that I find this plant ugly surprises me. I am in general not a fan of jades. I couldn't really tell you why. I think each of us are attracted to certain aspects of different plants, and I guess we just can't love every plant. One of the reasons I find this really ugly is the shape of these leaves is very non-symmetrical. Some of them are nicely shaped. Some of them have damage on the sides in a couple different places. I am getting new leaves in the center, which means it's not entirely unhappy as a plant, but I just really don't like it. Now, the fact that it does have new growth leads me to believe that this might eventually flourish, and this is a plant that I'd be willing to give away. So if I have some people that I work with who might like to have this plant, I'd be willing to part with it. I just can't see myself messing with it long term. It just does not appeal to me. Not at all. And then the last plant I want to talk about today is this one. This is the Kalanchoe fang. It's called a fang because you see on the edge of the leaves, there's some really interesting, spikies. I don't dislike this plant. Oh, wow. You see that it does have some dieback. That was not intentional, but when I pulled on that leaf, I knew it was a possibility because of the state of the leaf. The reason that I'm not really happy with this plant is because I don't think that a pot in the house is a good place for this plant. Now, I've had some lost leaves. You could see the different places where leaves fell off, but these leaves in the center are brand new. It's not that it's a really unhappy plant. It's that a pot in the house under lights is just not where it should be. I think what I might do is in the spring, I might put it outside. We'll see if it likes being outside. Unfortunately, that means that I won't bring it back in. And if it can't survive our winters, then I'll let it live the best life it can over our summer, and I will let it go in that fashion. I just don't think it's ever going to be happy in this pot, in the house, because the potential of this plant is to be really big, and I can't give it what it needs. So I hope that kind of explains my thought process. It seems like every winter I go through and I find plants and I think about downsizing. And I think part of that is because I can't wait for the spring, and I can't wait to buy new plants. And hopefully they'll all be plants that I love and plants that love me. I hope you enjoyed this little video. Thank you for joining. Have a good rest of your day.